Okay, guys, we have to meet our weekly quota for the drama. Okay, that's you, YouTube. Boy, do we have another. Dude, I'm gonna be honest. I'm tired at this point, bro. Can we have a positive news article? But if we did, then you wouldn't click to watch.
This was shot in front of a live studio audience at twitch.tv/Sweatcicle.
Sony says Destiny 2's sales and user engagement have not reached what it expected when it bought Bungie, downwardly revising projections as it records a $204 million impairment loss on Bungie assets. Wow. Who could have seen this one coming? $204 million out of their. What? Well, let me be clear. They got acquired for 3.6 billion. Just to remind ourselves, half of that was supposed to be future projections of what the franchise would make. Half of that is what Destiny and all of its big circle is worth. So, 1.8 billion, 204 million loss on that. That's pretty significant. So let's see if they have some more details here. Sony has acknowledged what Destiny 2 players have felt this year. Engagement is down over the last few months. Destiny 2's player numbers have slipped to new lows on Steam, and based on API-driven estimates, fallen below the lows seen during Curse of Osiris in 2018. Community sentiment has been rough. Now, Sony has put a hard number on the business impact. Sony's quarter two fiscal year 2025 earnings call, Sony recorded an impairment tied to Bungie 2's assets and says it has downwardly revised its projections for the near term. This update came straight from Sony's fiscal year 2025 quarter two and CFO Lin Tao. During a pre-recorded message shared as part of Sony's financial presentation, Tao said that Destiny 2 has fallen short of what Sony anticipated when it bought Bungie for $3.6 billion in 2022, with a significant portion earmarked for employee retention. Yeah, I forget what percentage of that was employee retention, but who would have guessed it? Literally after being acquired for way more than they ever should have been worth, all the people who had equity and stock from working at Bungie forever, aka those high-level executives, they waited for their shares to vest, and as soon as they did, they're gone. They don't care. See you later. They got their paycheck. It's just, you literally could see it from a mile away. That, like, as soon as they were acquired, these high-level executives can stop caring about what happens to the game because all they need to do is continue to work until their shares vest and then they're gone. It doesn't matter if Destiny succeeds or it fails. And obviously, if you're sitting in your office sticking your finger up your ass, they don't care. That they could sit and do that all day long, as long as they're able to work and tell that the vested share date. That's it. She explained that the 31.5 billion yen impairment against a portion of Bungie's intangible and other assets in connection to Destiny 2, along with another 18.3 billion yen expense tied to development and cost corrections, were the main reason why PlayStation's gaming segment, Game and Network Services, saw a drop in operating income despite an overall sales increase during quarter 2 2025. Development cost corrections. That sounds sketchy, bro. That sounds sketchy. I don't know how I feel about that. Regarding Destiny 2, partially due to the changes in the competitive environment, the level of sales and user engagement have not reached the expectation we had at the time of acquisition of Bungie. While we will continue to make improvements, we downwardly revised the business projection of the time being for the time being, recording an impairment loss against a portion of the assets at Bungie. During the Q&A portion of their earnings call, Lynn was asked whether this impairment could be the start of more write-downs tied to Bungie. She clarified that while the goodwill from the Bungie acquisition is tied to the broader PlayStation segment, and thus wasn't impaired. Other Bungie assets like Destiny 2 and Marathon still carry value that could be reduced in the future if they don't perform. This is an impairment loss of Bungie's intangible assets, and those assets are the target for the impairment loss. As for goodwill, that is supported by the whole game segment, there will not be any impairment loss for goodwill. For this time, Destiny 2's game performance did not reach the expectation we had. We know this. We still have some intangible assets, and the question of whether there's any risk remaining or not. Marathon, which is going to be launched, and Destiny 2, if the performance does not reach what we expect, of course, there is a risk of impairment loss, but we don't believe this impact will impact the whole game segment, at least at this point in time. Sony acquired Bungie for $3.6 billion in 2022, roughly $1.2 billion, which was set aside as retention incentives for Bungie employees. 1.2.
Bungie executive here. Just pulled my stock and took all my money from these immoral bozos. I ain't supporting this train crash, the very train crash that killed Ikora, of a company anymore. Bat chest.
1.2 billion, which was set aside as retention incentives for Bungie employees. The studio has since maintained its operational independence, though Sony recently said that Bungie's autonomy is getting lighter as it absorbs more of the Destiny 2 developer. Which is, I mean, it's to be expected. When your quarterly earnings are down quarter after quarter after quarter after quarter, all Sony can do is continue to eat the loss. They can keep those people working on Destiny, but hire them under the Sony name. But obviously, like, at this point, Bungie is basically just a loss leader for them. It was, they in all honesty, they should not have bought them. At least anywhere near that price tag. Like, I'm going to be honest, I even think 1.8 billion would be too much. I'm no business professional, but, like, if you really look at the optics of the entirety of, like, the game and the community and the IP and everything and the trajectory it was on, if you actually did your genuine research, anybody could tell you it was not worth this much, man. Like, I love Destiny and I want it to succeed, but this is ridiculous. Bungie, meanwhile, is still preparing to launch Destiny 2's next major expansion drop, the Star Wars-themed expansion Renegades, which arrives on December 2nd. Chat, do we know when the dungeon is? Did they put a date on the dungeon? Or ask anyone? Yeah, I mean, like... I'm glad that Sony is, like, forwardly saying this now. They still do dungeons? Yes, they still do dungeons, guys. I haven't seen a date yet. I would just like to know, because obviously, like, I'm planning my holiday stuff. And I would like to be able to see my family, so I'd like to be able to plan accordingly. Hey, guys, sorry, can't show up to Christmas, because I don't know when the fucking dungeon is. Is there anything else to say about this? I did. Was there a different article that said they were like? So, I think Sony was like maybe during this, but they were dead set on trying to release Marathon during the fiscal year of 2025, which I believe bleeds into March 2026 for us US folk. I think that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But man, I really wish they could just turn the tide. But I'm going to be honest, I think the only thing that'll do that at this point is like them getting rid of anybody who has like major equity and just doesn't care anymore, and replacing them with people that like obviously care and want the betterment for the game. But it's going to take a lot of learning for like bringing in new people and having them figure out how to run a game like this, you know? Now that GTA has been delayed, it's a minefield for release. Yeah, I don't think Bungie was anticipating any sort of like major drop towards, what is it, November now for GTA. Bungie needs to bring back their OG developers. Well, I just don't think that's possible. Because one, the OG developers that still remain at the company, most of them are still like doing their marathon thing because they got moved there years ago. Because if you remember, like I forget what exact year it was. They said that like after Forsaken, the expansion that literally made Destiny great, or like peak Destiny, they're like, oh yeah, let's move all these people that made that expansion great over to Marathon. And as far as I know, I believe they're still working on Marathon. So I don't know. But the other half, well, half, I don't know how many people it is. Anybody who was like an OG developer that made Destiny great, a lot of those people took their equity and ran. They were probably burnt out and just didn't want to work for the company anymore. They took their their chunk of the what was it? 1.2 billion and left. So, there's your weekly dose of Destiny 2 drama. All right, YouTube, if you enjoyed this react, make sure to subscribe to the channel and come check us out on Twitch. And we'll see you in the next one.